Let me call to order the meeting of the zoning board for the village of Webster, September 2nd, 2021. A couple of things here to go over first for us. Number one is we are typically a board of 5 people. We have 2 alternates who show up at every meeting, or at least one of them does, to fill in that 5 people. So right now, I will let the record note that Mr. Baker is not here, and I do not believe he is coming, and so I'm going to install Larry as our 5th board member. So that gives him voting rights throughout the course of this meeting, and we'll return to normal after that. Second item tonight, just a few administrative things we like to clear up first. Number one, the meeting minutes from our last meeting are in place, are in front of you. And I'd like to see if anybody has had the opportunity to read through them, if they are an accurate representation of our meeting last time. And if they are, can we have a motion to approve them as written or amend them as necessary?
I'll make a motion to have them approved, the minutes from August 19th.
We have a motion on the table to approve them. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. There we go. Meeting minutes approved as written. All right. Give a little bit of, because we have some members of the general public here, a little bit of a background on our process. What I will do is I will read into the record what the zoning variance request is, or requests. I'll probably do them all at once. There are 4 individual ones here. I'm going to essentially read the public notice. After that, what I will do is I will ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up, tell us what they are trying to do and why they need relief from the particular regulatory structure that's in place here. And the board will then at that point have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant or not. At that point, I will close that portion and then we will open it up to comments for or against this project from the general public. All we ask for is that if you're going to make some comments, come to the stand here. I think the microphone is on, but if not, it's a small room. We'll be able to hear you. And just tell us who you are, give us your address, and then you are free to speak for or against the project at that point. When that is done, we will then close that portion. The board can then, in open forum, and that's the way we will do it, have any further discussions we feel are necessary. When we are through with that, we may go through a seeker process. That's just to do a designation on this particular variance and its impact that it might have on the environment. And at that point, once we've made that determination, we'll ask for a vote for or against this. And I don't actually know yet, but I think we will probably do this as 4 individual ones done, or would you wrap them into one? I would probably do 4 individual ones. So we'll make motions, we'll ask for seconds, we'll ask for all in favor, and it's an either up or down vote on each one of the 4 variances. Any questions from anyone on that process? Okay, so tonight we have one item on the agenda, and it's to consider a request for variances by the applicant, Xerox Corporation, 800 Phillips Road, Webster, New York, to sell a parcel having a tax ID number, and I'm not going to read it, it's in the thing, with an area of 411.413 acres, believe that or not. We're going to split it into 2 parcels. One lot will have an area of 84.257 acres. The remaining lands having an area of 327.156. This property is zoned G1, and that's general industry. The applicant is seeking 4 variances. The first one being a 40-yard setback variance for a proposed setback of 0 to the north property line. The minimum required 40 foot pursuant to 17525 C2. This is building 334 is existing and currently enjoys a non-conforming setback as it straddles an existing property line, which is also a municipal property line boundary. Second one is a 16.9 rear yard setback variance for a proposed setback of 23.1 feet to the north property line. The minimum required is 40 feet pursuant to 17525 C2. Building 200, and that's this building, is existing and currently enjoys the non-conforming setback as it is constructed near an existing property line, which is also a municipal property boundary line. Third one is a 25-foot height variance for a proposed building height of 25 feet adjacent to the north property line. Maximum allowed is 0 feet pursuant to 17525D. This is building 334. It's an existing building and currently enjoys a non-conforming height variance as it straddles an existing property line, which is also a municipal boundary line. And the fourth and last one is an 8-foot height variance for a proposed building height of 31 feet adjacent to the north property line. The maximum allowed would be 23.1 pursuant to 17525D, and there's a calculation in there that allows us to get to those numbers. This is building 200 and is existing and currently enjoys a non-conforming height variance as it is constructed near an existing property line, which is also a municipal property line, municipal boundary line. So those are the four things being looked for right now. Who's going to represent Xerox Corporation and tell us what it is we're doing and why we need the relief that we're seeking?
Good evening, my name is Andy Hart with Bergman, here representing Xerox. We do have John Barrett here as well, representing Xerox, to answer any questions that might come up on the operational side. As was read into the record, the four variances that we're requesting, area variances, they are needed as part of a subdivision that we're asking for from the town as part of the village as well. The property is being subdivided to allow for the sale of those buildings that are within that new proposed property line. Buildings 200, let me just make sure I got it right. 200, 214, and 210. Also, there's a building 334 that sits on the northern property line, which we've used the northern property line as the existing municipal line between the village and the town. That building actually sits on that property line, that municipal line. So the proposed variance does include the property going through the building, so that's why we do need some variances from that as well. The proposed subdivision really sits within the center of the park, the Xerox Park, straddled between Phillips Road and Salt Road. We did bring an exhibit behind me, and that new area of the property is shown in blue, will be the new proposed lot within the village. Because these buildings are existing and non-conforming, when we worked this through with the village staff, it was determined that we should probably get some variances so that we're covering ourselves for that new owner who's going to take over this parcel. These buildings are existing, they're there today, and they do, as read into the record, are existing non-conforming uses.
And just to strip everything away here and get to the base of it, these are existing buildings, you're not adding on to them or anything else, you are preparing them for sale, and in order to prepare them for sale, we have to meet the current code that exists right now. Pre-existing non-conforming use would be the usual terminology that we would use, but there's no additions, there's no additional height, there's no building that's going to go on. It's simply cutting off a piece of the property and selling it.
Correct.
Okay.
Questions by anyone from the board?
Who is the buyer? Who is the new owner? Potential.
I don't think we're at a point now that we can make that publicly
Okay.
known, but hopefully soon.
Why?
I can have John answer that question.
What was the, do I have to go up there?
Yeah, just tell us who you are and representing Xerox.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank everybody for allowing us to meet today. I know this was a special session. So I'm John Barrett. I'm with the real estate organization at Xerox, 30-year employee. Been on the Webster campus my entire career. And the question was, why can't we answer? They have asked us at the moment, there are some other things going on with that company that they would like to be able to close on some other issues on their end with their customers. I don't know if you have deals going on, things like that. They just don't want it public at this moment, but it should be soon.
So what is their intent to use these buildings for?
The intent is to do similar manufacturing that we do. So it's not that far away from what we do here at Xerox. So it'll be manufacturing, warehouse, and those buildings are set up perfectly for that.
So if it's similar type of operations, are you anticipating the similar types of trucking, traffic, nothing out of the ordinary? Or is it
Nothing out of
going
the
to be
ordinary.
an explosion of activity?
No, I don't expect there to be an explosion of activity, but do something, those buildings have been vacant for a little while now. We've tried for a long, long time to get to this point where we are today. So what we are hoping is that, the heydays of Xerox when those buildings were full and there was activity there is where we're going back to with this buyer. Not an explosion, I don't want it to sound like, there's gonna be too much traffic. It's a dangerous word to use in public, right? So, but we're hoping it'll be back to, a good level of activity on the site.
But you would anticipate there will be an increase in traffic over what is currently there?
Certainly.
You don't have any plans of modifications to the buildings? I'm assuming they'll do inside stuff to meet their needs, but there's not going to be any outside additions or anything?
As far as we know at this moment, there won't be.
And if there was, they had to come to the village for building permits. And if they needed additional variances or whatever because of that, they would do that. But it's kind of almost irrelevant to the current application. The same thing with the use of the property. If they were going to change the use, they need a permit approval from the village for that. It's zoned, but as long as it's used as a permitted industrial use, it really, these are area variances. They're not seeking a use variance. And just for my own edification, I never looked at like the existing deed to the Xerox property, but is the municipal boundary actually a property line also? Not the new property. I know you want to have it be a new property line, but is it an existing property line?
I don't believe it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either, because it doesn't make any sense that you build a building right through the property line. How'd you get a permit for that? So technically, these actually aren't even pre-existing non-conforming uses, because they are conforming. Because if you look at the setbacks, the rear setbacks, it's a huge parcel. I mean, obviously you have at least 40 feet to the rear of these three buildings to where the property line is way back on, I know it's past Mitchell Dean, it's the extension of Orchard Street there, whatever that one's called. You see what I'm saying? And the height, because the height is a strange little formula that our code uses for industrial things, they meet the height requirements already. It's not like it's not, it's only gonna be non-conforming because they're gonna create this new property line, which just happens to be the municipal boundary.
They will own, the owner will own on the other side as well.
Correct.
Property in the town?
Yeah.
So they're purchasing some other buildings on the other side too?
No,
No, it's just the addition of like where all the parking and everything is. Because of the municipal boundary, we have to break it up into our acreage and then Webster has to do their acreage. And Webster's doing it administrative only, which, I mean, ours pretty much is, but it has to be more.
Just curious, year of construction of the buildings that we're talking about, or approximately years?
1970, circa 1970.
74, 75, I looked it up already.
Thank you.
And the only reason I was going there, not that it really matters, is I'm curious, how did we build these in the first place?
I was born in Illinois.
Okay.
That's weak. That's weak.
I, just hoping to quote it then in 74, 75.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the code from back then, we can look it up, but I mean.
Curiosity point at this point, the fact is, they are, and we're bringing them into compliance, is what we're doing.
Yeah, well, that's why I said I don't think that the municipal boundary line is actually a property line, because otherwise they would have needed these variances at the time the buildings were constructed, but they never applied for them because they didn't need them then, because that property line wasn't there. It isn't there as we speak,
Right.
Until they actually close on their sale and record a deed, it's fictitious today too.
So we're creating property lines.
Correct. But that's why the variances now are needed, because they're creating this new property line. Which now there's these setback variances.
but it is being created because of the municipal line.
Right.
We have to have two separate parcels because of the municipal line.
It makes sense to use the municipal line as the boundary line, so you don't get up with building 334 problems in the future. I think across on the old West Campus, there's a similar issue where the municipal boundary goes through one of those buildings too.
Other questions from members of the board?
No.
You're asking for 4 variances as they are listed, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. All right. What I'd like to do is close that presentation. Thank the gentleman for coming up here and telling us, answering our questions. What I'd like to do now is open it up to the general public for anybody who wants to have comments for or against or otherwise.
Richard Waller, 20 Elm Street. So if this is my understanding, what you're voting on tonight is a variance that will take effect at the close of the sale. And if it doesn't sell, the variances won't take effect because those property lines that will not be there. Is that true?
Theoretically, yes.
So the variances then will be contingent upon the completion of the sale? So what
I mean, unless they want them anyway.
Yeah, unless they want them anyway to try to sell to another,
No,
to another,
All right.
you know.
Makes sense.
But if the property line doesn't exist,
Well, so what they would just, instead of doing a deed from Xerox Corporation to ABC Company, whose name we don't know, they do another deed from Xerox Corporation to Xerox Corporation, or to some other entity, and that would create the property line.
yeah, but if the property line is not created, how do you make a variance for the property line? It's still contingent on the sale, right, to them or somebody else.
Well, it's contingent on a deed getting recorded.
Yeah. Okay.
But like someone said, Xerox might want to have these variances anyhow. If the deal falls through, then they could have got a ready-made lot and 3 buildings that are all
But you can't vary from a lot line if the lot line doesn't exist.
Well, but they could, what they could do.
The lot line will exist once they record a deed.
So, like I'm saying, the variance is contingent on a sale of this property.
Not necessarily a sale. It's
transfer.
contingent upon a transfer of title.
Type, yeah, okay. Thank
That's
you.
all. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Okay, let me close that portion. Any other comments, members of the board? For, against, clarification? All right, have we determined the seeker quality yet?
They're all area variances, so it's by definition.
Type 2.
Type 2.
Correct. So do we have to declare that, or?
Well, yeah, just to,
Okay.
you know, I know your seeker person is not here. Somebody else will have to make the motion.
And I don't know if anyone's willing to do that.
Well, it's usually Bill's job.
What we do need is a motion to declare this a type 2 seeker and declare the zoning board as the lead agency. If anyone would like to.
I'll make that motion.
Kathy's made a motion that it's a type 2 seeker.
I'll second.
Seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. There we go. Now, we can take these one at a time. And as we go through them, I'd kind of like to just make sure that we go through our process here. And the factors that we can consider, whether granting this or not, are whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance, whether the requested variance is substantial or not, would the variance have an adverse impact on the physical and/or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, and whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. No one of these carries more weight than the other, and no one or the other will determine it to be desirable or undesirable. It's just the factors that we consider as we go through this. So, I'm open to motions here. And what I would suggest, if anyone's going to make a motion to approve, maybe we just simply read A, B, C, or D in the meeting agenda. So how about A? It's always a good place to start.
Okay, I'll get things going here.
Thank you.
A 40-foot rear setback variance for a proposed setback to the north property line, minimum required, well, want all they said?
Yep,
Yes?
read them right in.
Minimum required 40-foot pursuant to 175-25C2. Building 334 is existing and currently enjoys a non-conforming setback as it straddles an existing property line, which is also a municipal boundary line.
Okay, we've got that motion on the table to approve.
A second.
Seconded by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you very much. We need to do the same thing through each one of them.
Okay, I will make a motion for a 16.9-foot rear setback variance for a proposed setback of 23.1 feet to the north property line, minimum required 40-foot pursuant to 175-25C2, building 200. It is an existing building, currently enjoys the non-conforming setback, and it is constructed near an existing property line, which is also a municipal boundary line. Propose a positive recommendation to accept this variance, or proposed variance.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Larry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. C.
I make a motion for a 25-foot height variance for proposed building height of 25 feet adjacent to the north property line. Maximum allowed 0 feet pursuant to 175-25D, building 334 is existing and currently enjoys a non-conforming height variance as it straddles an existing property line, which is also a municipal boundary line.
Motion on the table to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. And the last motion.
I'll make a positive approval for the 8-foot height variance for proposed building height of 31 adjacent to the north property line. Maximum allowed 23.1 pursuant to the 175-25D building 200 is an existing and currently enjoys a non-conforming height variance as it is constructed near an existing property line, which is also a municipal boundary line.
Motion on the table to approve.
Second.
Seconded by Kathy and Chris. Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Very good. And we don't believe that any of our conditions would warrant denial of any of the findings. Our findings are that it did not create a significant change or detriment.
Right.
Correct. Very good. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Good luck with the sale.
Thank you.
Okay, normally, we would have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks, but as of right now, the applicant for that meeting has not made application to the village, so there will be no meeting on the 16th. At best, that will move to the third Thursday of October, is that correct?
That is correct.
Outstanding. All right, so no meeting in 2 weeks. Any questions? Thoughts, comments, closing things? All right, and all we need is a motion to adjourn. Training.
Just,
You want
A reminder.
You want me to make a
you
comment?
make the comment.
Just a reminder that by the end of the year, we are to have a minimum number of hours, continuing education units. We should do our best to get those. If you're looking for opportunities and you're an online kind of person, go to Jo. She will give you some sites where we can get online. Most of those are free. If you want to go somewhere, many times they have them out in Genesee County. State comes through, those are available too, but I don't know if there are any between now and the end of the year. But Joe does a pretty good job of sending those out. So if you haven't made your 4 hours, is it Joe?
4 hours.
4 hours. If you haven't made your 4 hours, and it's a requirement annually, we should probably start thinking about that. Very good.
And I have just something to bring up.
Yes, ma'am.
Last meeting, we looked at, or we talked about the old, what do we call these? The Webster Design Guidelines. I'd like us to look at it again, maybe if we could all get a copy from Joe.
Oh, I almost wish that he hadn't left. The last time, yes, so go ahead,
Yes,
continue
so we
on.
can just start, be familiar with that. And
Now, these were design guidelines, or were these for just the signs?
everything was in here, right?
Everything was in.
Flashing signs and all of that stuff. Colors.
They were actually part of the comprehensive plan,
Mm-hmm.
which hasn't been revised in 10 years.
Right.
So so it may be a matter of looking at
So what's
the
our,
whole-
what's our recommendation or action? We bring it up here with the training. The action was to get your 4 hours by the end of the year. What's our action here? Are we asking for a group to begin to look at this? Do we take this to the Board of Trustees and ask them to commission a group or get their input on it at least? Carl?
You could bring it in front of the board and we could discuss that.
Okay?
Or it could just be a workshop for the planning board to see what we think of this old one, here's a start. Present this back to the village board.
Yep,
Carl?
yep.
So the action is, I think what Kathy's looking for is for a special meeting or an addition to one of our existing meetings to begin to look at this. I would make it, and this is just me because I want it on the public record, I would make it an addendum to one of our existing meetings, have the discussion.
There you go.
Let's see what it is we have. Do we want to change it? Do we want to suggest changes to it? And then take that set of comments and go back to the Board of Trustees.
Sounds good.
Very good.
Also, if I may, there was, within the office, we were talking about several codes and changes and updates and stuff like that, so keep that in mind that.
Well, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, if we're going to open up the code, let's do it one time.
Right.
Make these minor changes that we've all found, okay, that really doesn't belong there. Let's make it or suggest it and take it over to
And
the
as
board.
Joe said, adding on, the comprehensive plan hasn't been updated in quite some time, so we're, like I said, talking about, just kind of getting everything done at once, moving forward. And
All right, seeing as though we don't have a meeting the 16th, let's at least put an agenda item on the 16th, open to the public.
The 16th of September?
Well, no,
Or
I'm
you
sorry, I
talking
just assumed that 30
Okay.
days later would be the 16th of October. I don't know what it is.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Oh, you're not gonna believe this, but it is the 6th, oh no, that's December. It's the 15th of October. At our October meeting, let's open up that discussion. We may or may not conclude it at that point, chances are we won't, but at least we open up the discussion and see where it's gonna go.
did you say October 15th?
15th is
That's a Friday.
14th. The 14th.
14th,
And if it's the 3rd,
it's always the third Thursday,
that would be the
third
21st.
Thursday.
That would be the
21st.
21st.
21st, October 21st.
We'll get there eventually.
I really appreciate all that help. Not. All right, now I'm really looking for a motion to close this meeting.
Well, I'll make that motion.
All right, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you all very much.
All right.